Hey everybody, welcome back to the I Play 2 podcast. I'm your host, Rob Adler. This week, actor, host, musician, and writer Jesse Blaze Snider joins the show. You have probably heard his voice before, as Jesse's been the voice for Kia Motors, Food Paradise, and has had roles in the Final Fantasy and Call of Duty franchises. His comic writing credits include Marvel, DC, and the Muppets, and he has his own music and comic venture entitled Black Light District. Also, he composed music for the reality series Growing Up Twisted, which followed the everyday life of his family. Speaking of whom, his father, Dee Snider, was the lead singer for the rock band Twisted Sister and sang the iconic anthem, We're Not Gonna Take It. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Life is very good. It's been a good new year.
What are some of the latest projects you're working on right now?
Well, at the end of last year, I wrapped up a really interesting healing frequency music project that pre-orders for on Kickstarter. And that was really cool because I was working with the AI to create music for fun. Because my friend had explained to me that I could make my songs, but I didn't know I could direct it. I could tell it what to do, and I could have the AI back me up as my backing band. I could record demos for my songs. So when I realized that I could do that, I kind of tested it out, and I had great success of absolutely like getting exactly what I wanted. And the first thing that I did was I had written the songs, but I produced the songs that I had been singing to my mom and to my dad and to my kids. I had written them all little ditties. If I loved you, I would write you a jingle. And then like when I would see you, I'd show up and I would sing the jingle. My girlfriend, our cat is Ozzy Oz cat. Every time I walk in the house and I see the cat, I'm like, Ozzy, Ozzy, Oz, Oz, Ozzy, Oz cat. He's like a lion, but with the seatbelt. And I would make up all these silly little songs that were just my love for the person. And there's no reason to record these songs with my heavy metal band. Let's record my song I wrote for my mom. My mom's better than your mom. This classic 60s doo-wop song. It didn't make sense for me to record so many of these. So all of a sudden I had this outlet to record music that wasn't appropriate for the bands that I'd been in and the music projects I had. And while I was playing with the AI, I realized that I could use the AI to make healing frequency music. And healing frequency music has actually been really difficult for me to make with live bands, with humans, because half the musicians I deal with, they don't even understand anything about tuning and 440 versus 432 or versus 528 or any of these frequencies. So I would get very frustrated. I could never really do some of the things I wanted to do. And there are complex tunings that can happen in a song that can really maximize how much healing frequency a person's being hit with. So over the course of like a year, I perfected a process that I call 432 plus. And it is like a 6-layer of chakra opening frequencies, all built into the music. A different frequency for the kick, a different frequency for the snare, a different frequency for the vocals, a different frequency for the background vocals, and then all based in 432, which is this super harmonic frequency. And it started blowing my mind.
What was the reason behind doing this?
I always wanted to find frequency music that was not boring. Most of the frequency music you find, it's all chanting, just weird noises and stuff. And I only wanted for myself just to be able to listen to some stuff that was more like popular music, more like the type of music that I would like to listen to. When I started making it, it immediately became very obvious how deeply affected I was by the frequencies of the music that I had figured out how to really, really get in there and amplify. And the final layer too, I added inaudible binaural beats to the music that you don't hear. So it's a whole walking meditation, all of this music that I made. And one of the things that I offered for the Kickstarter was called the Heart Record, which was going to be a collection of all those songs that I wrote at the very beginning for my kids, my mom, my dad, my girlfriend. And then when I started working on that stuff, though, I had made it 440 tuning. It's all normal tuning because that was the first stuff I did. It was a little bit later as I started to just play around that I started to do all the tuning. But I had one more song for my son Cassidy, who never liked his song, and he didn't want me to record it at first. And then when I told him I was releasing an album with all the kids' songs, and you're the only one who doesn't have the song on it, he said, okay, you can record it. So I had to go back in and record his. And because I was recording that one from scratch, I didn't want to do it the same way I did the other ones. I wanted to use my 432 plus frequency. So what I ended up doing was I did Cassidy's, and then I went through all of these songs that I did for all my family, and I reproduced them in the 432 plus, and I managed to get even better than what I had previously had. And I called an audible on the Kickstarter. So what everybody was originally ordering, which was the solfeggio frequencies, there was 9 different tracks, all in standard tuning of the solfeggio scale 528. Instead, the big record that I'm giving everybody now for this release, that's going to have the lyric book and everything, it's the heart record, because these are the lyrics that I want written down. There's a song called This Song I Wrote, and it's this general thank you to all the people who have ever supported me and been good to me. And I want those lyrics written down. I want that to be the booklet. And a picture of my mom and dad for the opening page and the introduction to the heart record and what it means to me. I got a picture of me and my 4 kids that leads into their section and the 4 songs that come after that. And I'm trying to make a little bit of a collage with some of my best friends on planet Earth, everybody who's really been there for me and been good for me so that I can say thank you.
You're staying pretty busy over there. I'm almost afraid to ask what else you're working on.
The next thing on the docket is putting out this Strangeland miniseries, which started releasing from Fangoria Comics 20 years ago when I first started writing comics, and it never completed. Fangoria Comics went under. We have the rights to put it all out, and the whole book is drawn. I wrote it, and my father owns the property. I don't got to pay any licenses or anything. He already said, I'd love to see it put out. It'll give me one more thing to sign. It shows. Go for it. Let's get it out there. So that's going to be next, even though it's pushing down the line just a little bit. Our next comic book project, which is an anthology comic book magazine called Sugar and Bones. Once Sugar and Bones launches, it's a quarterly magazine, and I want to continue to keep it going. So trying to get us really primed for success and feeling like we got a little money in the coffers to promote. And then those things are going to come out. But first, it'll be the Strangeland book, and I think that'll be a big success for us. And then magazine after that, and lots more music to come.
Going back to the music side for a second, with the invention of AI, has that helped your music and songwriting career in terms of being more prolific?
I am a very prolific songwriter and literally been sitting on 5,000 of the greatest songs I've ever heard for years now. And I haven't been able to get them out of me fast enough. So just the mere fact that I've been able to get 200 ideas out of my face in a year, I've never experienced this before. I've never experienced the technology being as fast as I am. But working with musicians, a lot of times everybody wants to be so unique in how they approach their songwriting, they end up nerfing songs. You write something that is meant to be a standard bluesy, whatever it is, and then they're refusing to play it like that. I literally had a moment with my old band, Baptized by Fire, where I was waiting for them to hit upon what I was looking for. And for a second, that was it, you nailed it. And my drummer looked at me and he said, no. That's what we're trying not to play. And I went, because I wanted that to be my band. I liked working with those guys, but I couldn't get them more mainstream because they were constantly trying to pull the tip of my boat in the other direction. So everything we made was always just a little bit more metallic, a little bit more indie, a little bit less commercially connectable. And for me, it's all about audience. I don't believe in genre. I go to sporting events. I've been going to them for my entire life. I've got really great seats at sporting events because my father is Dee Snider, and he has written 2 mega hits, songs that are so huge that they are played in rarefied air at stadiums alongside Welcome to the Jungle and Queen and AC/DC, alongside the biggest bands in the world. Twisted Sister is played. I Want to Rock, We're Not Going to Take It. Stadium songs. There are some songs that everyone likes, and some of them are rock songs. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, that rock music isn't for everybody. No, it is. Go down to a stadium and observe. It's for everyone if you execute it correctly. So there's these incredible anthems, and I just studied how to write hooks like that. And I've broadened out. Now I write like a lot more stuff. For a minute, I was just myopically focused on, I'm going to teach myself how to write songs that break through. There's a song that I'm planning on using in the future that is a send up to Twisted Sister. And this is one of those songs where I just said, there it is. got it. This is the feel. And it's a very simple tune. It's, I'm not the only one sent here to save this world. We'll never stop us all. Not every boy and girl. 'Cause they're not the only ones sent back to settle this score. They'll never stop us all. We're banging at your door. There are some things metered and measured and in your face, saying something that you want screamed in your face, and we are all about it. And if you can find a way to approach the conversation musically like that and to know how people are conversating energetically and what songs are doing for people, when they work, they're freeing people in one direction or another. And the thing that Dee Snider always did for every listener in his audience was free them to go put on women's clothing and storm around on stage and let people call you gay and beat them up if they say so, to really give you the power to try whatever it was that you wanted to do, whatever it was that you felt was important. That's what matters. And a good anthem, a good song, it gives you the keys to the kingdom, gives you the freedom, the permission to act how you would like to act. And my whole artistic career is dedicated to that. The same way Dee Snider freed people with music, Jim Henson freed people with the Muppets. And I'm a huge Jim Henson fan. I'm a huge Dee Snider fan. And ultimately, both of these guys who were doing it in very different ways taught me the exact same lesson, that people were disenfranchised and disempowered, and they deserved a platform. They deserved to be lifted up. They deserved to be reminded that it was all in their mind, the idea that they couldn't do something, the idea that they could do something. And the moment they thought, maybe I could, it became possible.
So since you just mentioned the Muppets, how did your love of the Muppets initially begin?
Most of my hobbies, like 90% of them, I've inherited from my father. He got me into comedy. He loved comics. He got me into comics. He loved Star Trek. He got me into Star Trek. The one thing that I got from my mom very early on was a love for the Muppets. My mom loved the Muppet Show, and it used to be on reruns, and we had VHSs and different things. And when I was a kid growing up, that was on at the house all the time. The Muppet Show and MTV, because my father was on MTV. So there was little clips playing. And then all of a sudden, if my mom heard the song, she'd be like, Jesse, Daddy's on TV. But music and the television was always on in the background. And some of my favorite songs of all time I got from listening to the Muppet Show. Act Naturally. They're gonna put me in the movies. Get a little help from my friends. I get by with a little help from my friends. Oh my God, one of the greatest songs ever. Songs that were so good that I remembered them. As years went by, I was like, where is that song? Who did that song? I gotta find this. I gotta get this album. Just great soul and funk and dance and things that I would never be turned on to by my father. Leo Sayers. Don't make me feel like dancing. I'm gonna dance the night away. I love all that stuff. So for me, it was really like the sun to the moon that was Twisted Sister and things of that nature. My dad got me into AC/DC and Kicks, and there was 70s rock bands that he was into, and that formed me a lot. But I never stopped loving the variety that was available to me on the Muppet Show. And for me as a songwriter, it's like Twisted Sister was the baseline, and then I just wanted to expand on Twisted Sister with all of the other little pieces of wonderful music that I was hearing from all these different artists. If you're not an old school Muppet Show fan, it's on Disney Plus, most of the episodes, and you can go back and you can watch it. They were very great about selecting songs that told a great story. One of my favorite songs from the Muppet Show was Time in a Bottle. If I could put time in a bottle. And it's this amazing little thing where there's a scientist and he's old and he's mixing all these different lab things to try to get himself younger. And he keeps drinking and it ends with him being back old again. And it's this cute little bit. But it was such a good framing device for the characters. And they always would find songs that were great songs, but had a lot of character, had a lot to say. And for me, it's just the greatest lessons of my life were all learned from the Muppet Show. Everybody has something to offer. They just need a place to demonstrate. All genres of music are cool. All styles of entertainment are all right. People need good leaders who care about them.
It's amazing how one show can have an impact.
I am Kermit the Frog. My company is meant to be the Muppet Show. If you look at it right now, you're going to see a lot of Kermit the Frog central things, seemingly just about Jesse, but that's just because I own me. I can put myself out there to build up the company. But the whole point of the company is that I want a stage for Fozzie and Gonzo and Camilla and all of these other wonderful Muppets that I know. But the entertainment world is not built to take care of us. And they drop the ball with the most wonderful people. If you guys knew some of the talents that I know that nobody knows, it's such a tragedy how talented so many of these people are out in the world, and they don't have anybody backing them up. This whole system is rigged, and it's designed to prey upon the people who care to be in it. You want to be a part of this system? You want to be famous? You want to help people be happy with writing songs or acting in films? Well, we're going to make you pay for it. They change you. They try to bend and break you into something different. Every label that ever approached me about anything wanted me to be Bon Jovi. They wanted me to grow my hair long, be as handsome as humanly possible, and write love songs until I died. The girls will love you, Jesse. Why can't we just focus in this place? And I would say, because that's not what I do. That's not the type of artist I am. I'm a freedom fighter. I'm here intellectually to tell people that they can do it. They can do anything that they want, and they need to believe in themselves. And there's not enough people who are out there spreading that message. And that's why I took up the torch to continue to spread that message. And they go, we're really interested in you because of your looks, or we're really interested in you because of your father. Can we make what you're doing more like what your dad did so that it could be that? They want to do anything but something natural and something naturalistically. And people don't understand. They have no clue what the world of music and any of this stuff really is. Your Ozzy Osbournes, your Beatles, they are not responsible for their music catalogs, period. Full stop. They are given credit for other people's songwriting over and over and over and over again. Did the Beatles eventually write some of their own stuff? Probably. Is fake Paul McCartney probably a very successful songwriter who they turned into Paul McCartney? Probably. He's probably one of the guys who was writing a lot of the Beatles material. But these guys are the first boy band. Ozzy Osbourne is just a figurehead, a voice that other people are giving their ideas to. People don't have an appreciation for how talented Dee Snider is when he wrote almost every single Twisted Sister song that has ever been recorded, because they've made up bands like the Beatles and said, these guys wrote everything, all range of things. Now there are actually people like me who've been able to learn from a fabricated Beatles and actually be a modern day Beatle who can write all genres, do all the things, whatever else. But at that time, people weren't even thinking that way. To have an individual who can consistently write hit songs, those people are worth their weight in gold. And most of them, you never even hear their names. They're not given credit. And I didn't know that two of the songs on my dad's last record, he didn't write, and he was given credit for them. I had somebody approach me very sad, and I rejected this guy. I felt bad about it later when I found out the truth, that told me that he had written a song for Twisted Sister. He never got credit for it. He never got paid for it. And then one day I was at dinner with my dad, and I said, hey, Dad, did you write all those songs? And he was like, no, actually, there's two songs that I didn't write. And that was supposed to be my dad's solo record. They were going to get behind Dee. Some point in the way, they decided that they weren't going to do a Dee solo record anymore. I guess they decided he wasn't controllable. But when you do a solo record, you want to make it the best thing. You get all the best songs. If there's a good song, we're going to put that song on there, and Dee, you're getting credit for it. Oh my God, it was possible. And now my mind really had just been blown, because I was sitting in a situation where sometimes things would get offered to me. Like in the earlier stage of my career, I kept trying to show everybody I can write. The whole thing is I write songs. I don't want other people's songs. And occasionally there would be songs that would come to me and they'd be like, you could record this and you'll get full credit for it. And I would go, I don't want full credit for a song that I didn't write. The whole idea is I wrote these songs and I want to share them with you so you can see that I write good songs and that you might want to hang out with me while I'm continuing on a career of writing songs. Not lie to people and say, I wrote this. One of my most famous songs, actually, I have the least to do with the songwriting process. Most of the things that I create come from me soup to nuts. There was a moment where I was trying to write a song for my daughter for her christening, and I was just so focused on it. I was kind of circling the drain with it because I got to do this. It's never really good when it's like very specific what you have to achieve artistically, because you want it to come from a place of inspiration. And I was really getting frustrated because I had a ticking clock. We were doing this christening episode of the reality show, and I wanted to perform a song. And the things that I was coming up with, they weren't very good. And I just was like, oh my God, I can't have this not good song be representative of me, but this isn't going to do it. This isn't going to do it. And then finally, I had a friend of my managers at the time who was really good friends with a dude named Johnny Black, John Lettieri. He had a song that he'd been messing with for a long time. And he sent it my way, and it was great. It was exactly what I was talking about. It was a little bit off of my personal style, but mostly it was great. Lettieri gave me a killer song. Did I enhance it? And was I a part of the writing process? Absolutely. Like the bridge I wrote in the song, which is one of the best parts. The bridge is so good because as my sole contribution to the song, other than arranging and adjusting, that was my main contribution to the song. So I wanted to make sure that I was representing and I was earning my keep as a songwriter in that thing. And I bring it up only to say that in the early stage of the conversation, you could take full credit for this. And I was like, no. What don't you understand? This is a great song, but he wrote it. I'm like, I can totally bring this home, and I'm going to adjust some of these lyrics, and I'm going to finish this bridge, and I want to do the chorus a little bit more like this and a little bit more like this. And I was a part of the process to finish it. But it was not written by me, by myself. Johnny wrote it, and then he handed it off to me, and I finished it, and it's great. But to take full credit for it would just be the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life, and exactly what I feel I'm here to do to change things.
Well, how would that change come about? And can you give an example of maybe some change that has already happened?
One of my best friends, who I live with, me and my buddy Digger Mesh. Digger owned a toy company called the Art Asylum. Digger was the first toy company ever to credit the sculptors on the box for the Kiss Love Gun action figures. That was unheard of. Nobody was getting credit for that. I wanted to be the person to help make giving credit to songwriters something. That should be a thing. Taylor Swift, she's got a new big hit, and she wrote it with this lady Lila from Southeast Florida. She's a songwriter too. And Taylor, oh man, and when she submitted this song to me, I just thought it was so good, and we collaborated and put a spotlight on these people. I don't care about the person who's performing the song. I care about the person who wrote the song. I want to hear it from their heart. I want to see it in their eyes. And I do covers sometimes, and I don't like doing covers because I'm a communicator and I write songs, and that's my whole point. I want to communicate with you as an audience member, and I want to connect with you. But when I do covers, I tend to get very nice compliments about the level of authenticity. And I'm a voiceover actor, so sometimes my authenticity can be pretty good because I can get like to the level of parody, doing like an impression. But the biggest thing that I'm really doing, and the reason why they're complimenting me when I don't sound anything like the singer, it's that I feel like the singer. Because when I'm listening to the music, I'm studying how it's making me feel and what emotion seems to be being encapsulated in all the things. When I'm reading the lyrics, I'm trying to intellectually understand what they mean. No matter how metaphorical it might be, I'm really trying to go, what's he saying here? And then once I know what he's saying, I sing it, and you feel like I'm saying the same thing he's saying, because I have taken the time to intellectually connect to the meaning, not just the melody. We're not going to take it goes, na, 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 na. But the energy of we're not going to take it is, ah, 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 ah. It's gearing up, it's energy. It's not about, that happens to be the notes. But how it makes you feel is the important thing. Like when I do Burn in Hell, it evokes that energy. It's very theatrical. You're gonna burn in hell. see no evil, don't you hear no evil. And in order to really pull it off, you kind of have to embody this dark narrator. And it's like there's no other way to do it. To not do it that way is to not do it. And you might melodically sound like him. You might even sound a little bit like him vocally. But if energetically you don't feel like the crypt keeper telling us the story about how this person's going to burn in hell, it doesn't play. It doesn't come across. So we so often get hung up on all these little details that we think are the most important parts about art, when really the most important part is consistency and the big picture. A really great song is based around one little good idea in the middle. And then the solo is there to complement it, to break the monotony. The verse is there to change up the pattern. You add a B verse the second time around to give just even a little bit more lengthening before we go back to the part that's going to repeat maybe 3 or 4 times in the song. You want to lay these things all out in very complementary ways. And the more you overthink it, especially in one area or another, like don't overthink the beginning and overthink the end, because the middle is not going to match up with the start and the finish. You have to really put as glazed, even thought towards everything at once and get an even solution. Otherwise, it's just somebody sort of like wrestling for spikes of authenticity at a time, when really you just want to tune in and zone into something. And now you're channeling the energy for an extended period of time that we want to feel this, we want to vibe this, very cool. Now you're with me for 6 minutes. If you just kind of get a big look at the picture and what is the point, what am I trying to achieve, you'll always be able to get there.
So I'm a big cover song guy. I actually love when people step out of their element, like Twisted Sister did a Christmas album, which was fantastic.
You listen to Dee Does Broadway? Because that was similarly very well done. And the thoughtful execution of the Christmas album, and the Christmas album would have been even better if Mendoza hadn't produced it very muddy. If it was produced a little cleaner, it would have been way bigger of a success. But I thought the arrangements on that Christmas record are insane. And the arrangements for some of the Broadway things, like especially Mac the Knife. Have you ever seen the video for that? My brother Cody directed that video. Oh my God, it's awesome.
Earlier on, you mentioned that you love comedy. I could sit here and talk stand-up comedy all night. So who are some of your favorite stand-up comedians?
Eddie Izzard is my favorite stand-up comedian of all time. Although I feel so terrible for Eddie because he had this weird scandal a while back. I don't know if you heard about this, but his routine with comedy was he would take his last special back out into the clubs and slowly, 5 minutes at a time, he would get rid of 5 minutes from the old special and he would add in 5 minutes of the new special he was working on. And as he got more confident and more comfortable or whatever, by the end of it, he had a whole new special. And then he'd do another special and then he'd continue on again. But in the age of the internet, something weird happened where he had done a special and then he went to the club and he started doing his thing and became this big viral whatever that Eddie Izzard was in the club doing the same material as his last special. And they were going to cancel him. And he changed his entire modus operandi to appease them. And his next special was not good. I hate saying that because I love him so much. He's literally just my favorite comedian. I just find him so charming. I love how he sets up his sets and he puts on his own little skits within his own thing where he's talking to himself. And I just really, really love the way he approaches comedy. I love the way he thinks. I think he's a really open-minded, sweet dude. Broke my heart. But he has like 8 or 9 specials from before that, and I love them all. If you've never seen the Star Wars Cantina bit that he does of Darth Vader at the lunch line, Darth Vader, I am your boss. The pasta arrabbiata, please.
So with Eddie Izzard, my favorite bit of his is how Jerry Dorsey turns into Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yes. Jerry Dorsey, Winkleback, Spinkleback. No, Crinkleback, Pickleback, go back a tick. What was it? Engelbert Humperdinck. It's a great bit. He has so many great bits. The one that I'm always going on about, just because it's such a perfect one, he says, hey, bloke in a dress. And he goes, yes, bloke in a dress. Feel a bit confident for bloke in a dress. And then he explains how teasing works. He's like, if you go, hey, and you go, no, no, no. And they go, oh, yeah, no, that's how it works. But if they go, hey, and you go, yeah, they go, I don't know what to do. Those levels of observations and interactions with people just are what make him the best. Even the flirting stuff is great. Hello, Sue. So I went swimmy, swimmy. We're flirting in the pool, splashy, splashy. And then I swimmy, swimmy all the way home. For those of you who are like, what are they talking about? Just go watch some Eddie Izzard stand-up. He's glorious. He's just very smart. And he always says, I like to leave my audience not with like a big encore, but with the feeling of sort of, and I think I've done that rather nicely. That's exactly how he approaches his whole set. It's all meant to make you think. And they're all lines of thinking that you'll find fun. And you'll go back and think about it some more. It's hard not to want to think about Darth Vader with a cafeteria tray, dealing with some annoying cafeteria lady on the Death Star, in the Death Star cantina. You definitely find yourself coming back to them going, oh man, this is just the best. And then if you go back further, Steve Martin is one of my favorite comedians. He's just very unique and interesting. He would play guitar on stage and just a lot of parts to what he was doing. There's a long list. It's hard to not just shout out a bunch of names, but just say George Carlin, Lewis Black, Mitch Hedberg. Those people are some of my favorites. And recently, this guy doesn't get enough respect. Jeff Dye. I think he's a good man in his heart and his brain. I see him thinking, trying to figure out how to have all the conversations that I would like to have. And he hasn't come into his own yet the way I know he's going to. I'm waiting in the wings going, you're going to do it, Jeff. You can do it. And I do a podcast 6 days a week. And my favorite thing is just being able to recommend things like this and share and stuff. I do comedians and stand-up and other things. It's Wild Card Friday. So I do a lot of different stuff. But Mondays, I do an album. Tuesdays, I do an animated film or cartoon. Wednesdays, I do a graphic novel. Thursdays, I do a classic live action. I'm not reviewing these. I'm just wholeheartedly recommending them. So Eddie Izzard was one of the first people that I did in the comedy world to just go, oh, Eddie's so great. And I'm going to do his show again. But of course, every single time I go to talk about him, it's more than just that one special. But you should watch every single special he's ever done.
You also mentioned Steve Martin. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but in, I would say, the early 70s, he appeared on The Tonight Show and did comedy for dogs. And he literally did a stand-up in front of a set of dogs. And you can tell that he knows he's dying. And Johnny still calls him over, and Johnny just kind of looks at him. And Steve's like, yeah, I know.
I got to watch that. That's a funny one. Steve's just so great. I mean, I'm such a big fan of The Jerk. My dad really got me into my path to being really into comedy, started with comedy films. So The Jerk was an early one, alongside Blues Brothers and Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and Marx Brothers, Duck Soup and Night at the Opera, Day at the Races. Love those films. So from there, so many of those people were comedians, and I would hear about those things. And my dad was even friends with Bobcat Goldthwait. So one of the first comedy stand-ups that I ever listened to was Bobcat, because it just so happened there was a cassette that he had been given at some point in time that was lying around the house somewhere that I found one day, and it was like sealed. And I went, can I open this? So I popped open Meet Bob. And dude, Bobcat is one of those guys who does not get enough credit for how great his stand-up is. If you've never seen Bobcat Goldthwait's stand-up, he's very smart. You wouldn't necessarily think that based on the character that he does. One of the greatest jokes I think ever written, which has one of the greatest callbacks ever written. It starts off of him, I lost my job. No, wait. I didn't really lose my job. It's just now when I go there, there's this new guy doing it. And then later on, he goes, I lost my girl. I didn't really lose my girl. Just now when I go there, there's this new guy doing it.
Your Bobcat Goldthwait's almost better than his Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh, man, I listened to that special so many times. There's this bit about the Pope blessing himself surrounded by bulletproof glass. I'm getting holier! And like, will a blessing pass through the bulletproof glass? Or is it just bouncing off the glass and he's blessing himself? Bobcat's underappreciated. He's gone on to make films. And for the people who've watched some of his films, like he did that movie with Robin Williams, Best Dad Ever, Shake the Clown.
Because you've done a couple of really good impressions, including that last one of Bobcat Goldthwait, how did you get into initially doing voiceover work and stuff? Because your voice is wide-ranging, I would imagine allows for you to have a lot of different opportunities.
I can do a lot with my voice. 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 My range of what I can do is really wide. So the basic genesis of it all was kind of that. And just having the right opportunities to take multiple steps into that direction. And then when I jumped into voiceovers, I was really like the right guy. My career in entertainment, besides me being a college student, winning awards for writing different articles and different things, trying to pursue writing there and having bands, but independently, nothing professional. My professional career basically starts as I'm hired out of college by MTV2. I was a VJ for MTV2 Rock for a year. And at the time, I was actually up for a whole bunch of big jobs. I was up for You Pick Live. And originally, I was up for Headbangers Ball that later went to Jamie Josta, which would have been the better gig for me to get because Jamie got to be doing Headbangers Ball for many years. And the MTV2 Rock position got scaled down within a year. And they kept my friend Jim, who was the indie rock guy. So the process of hosting, it's reading from a teleprompter, basically. But the two things that you got to do is you have to disguise what your eyes are doing so it doesn't appear like you're reading. You have to develop a lot of tricks to gaze ahead of you without a clear what you're focusing on, because if you're reading too much, people literally just see you like you're reading a book. So you literally got to bounce at the script and keep bouncing away from it. It's a skill that you have to figure out. And then the other part of it, which was really useful when it came to voiceovers, was it had to sound natural. It couldn't sound like it was a script. It had to sound like they just turned on the camera and Jesse, the guy who was directing us to the thing, he knew what to do. He was saying, hey, it's Jesse. You're watching MTV2 Rock. And right now we've got some My Chemical Romance. See you in a little bit. It needed to sound like it was actually coming out of me. And of course, these things that you're saying, especially in like countdown shows and stuff, it's like some of the most unnatural stuff you'll ever say in your life. So you get very good at being able to naturalistically put all this stuff forward. And granted, I had more than just that year there. I was one of the original hosts for AOL Music's Top 11 Countdown, which was the first internet music video countdown show that they ever did, which was a big deal at the time. I worked for Fuse, HBO. I hosted a bunch of different things at that time. And then at a certain point in time, the casting people became aware of me. Once the people were aware of me, if something came up that was right for me, ring, 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 they would call. They'd seen me enough times, they knew who I was. So you would just get work occasionally once you were in the sphere. But that also meant there wasn't exactly anybody else to see. So I was kind of in this state where I was like waiting for work to come. And my father had started to become a pretty successful voiceover actor. He did a lot of radio on Howard Stern, and then he had his own radio show for Connecticut, and it was syndicated. And he started to become a in-demand voiceover voice. And Dee Snider's voice is clear as bell. This is the house of hair. So there's a famous saying in Hollywood and entertainment, there's 5 stages of your career. And in the case of Dee Snider's career would be, who's Dee Snider? Get me Dee Snider. Get me a Dee Snider. Get me a young Dee Snider, and who's Dee Snider? So all of a sudden I started getting in my mind, hey, wait a second, I could be a young Dee Snider. He's successful in the voiceover world. We have very similar voices, largely because he's my idol, he's my dad, and he's my hero, and I copied him. And I'm very high-functioning autistic. There's just some communication issues and things that if you're high-functioning, a lot of times nobody notices. And you just are kind of left with, I don't understand why I keep having bad experiences with everybody. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And part of that communication thing was me copying him because I was feeling like I wasn't the best communicator. And I set out to copy this guy. He's on the radio. He's talking to everybody. So I would literally hide outside of his room, like when he was recording shows, and I would lean up against the wall and I would just listen to him. I would listen to him on the phone all the time. I loved to listen to him speak. I was just studying how to speak and how to be charming, really good at buttering people up and getting people to break. And I wanted to be just like him. So now, all these years later, I'm also rock and roll singing in the clubs every night, and I'm ripping up my vocal cords, and I'm developing a raspiness in my voice that matches my father very well.
Did being a host lead to VO work?
I went in and I asked if the agents that had hired me for hosting, I asked if they had a voiceover division and if maybe those people would be willing to see me and consider me. I went in and I met with the people and they said, we'll give you a shot. And within 3 months, my whole life changed. I booked 2 of the biggest gigs of my life. I became the voice of Pizza Hut. And I also booked a commercial because I started going on commercials at the time. One of the few commercials that I booked, a Domino's pizza commercial. And I booked this Burger King spot, the Burger King chicken fries, which has re-aired so many times. It's one of the most famous Burger King commercials ever. BK chicken fries. And they would go, hey, look at that chicken hanging out with those French fries. Maybe he wants to be one. And the guy goes, maybe I do. Maybe I do want to be a French fry. That was me. And that thing got aired and re-aired. Every single time that thing would air, I would get like 15 grand. Crazy money. And commercial union rules, this is why your speaking role in like a commercial, it's going to be so lucrative for these people. And they must have brought that campaign back multiple times. Every single time they brought it back, it was like, woo, throw a party, money out of nowhere. Like right now, money's been a bit tight and I've been praying every now and then. Just find myself going, oh, please bring back the Burger King chicken fries and send me some more of that fabulous union money. So that opened the door to this is a viable career. And there was literally moments during that time where I almost gave up on music and comics completely. And I shouldn't even say gave up because I wasn't necessarily feeling like I was giving it up so much as I was having a lot of success here. And I like this. And this is fun. And I'm good at this. It's really nice to be good at something where the people that you're working with are very pleased with you. They're happy that you're there. You're easier to work with than the people they've worked with before. They get what they need from you easier than the other people. It was very satisfying because I just love to please people. I want to be told, great job, Jesse. Thank you so much. You nailed it. Awesome. That's what I want. I want to nail it for you. I want you to be pleased. And for me, the voiceovers really became something incredible. I was the voice of GameStop at that same time, which is funny because I used to work at a GameStop. And then I've been paid thousands of dollars to be the voice. Pre-order Madden, get good sooner. GameStop, power to the players. Then I was also the young narrator for Smithsonian Channel. Cheetos, baked Cheetos snacks. Deliciously crunchy, dangerously cheesy. I've worked for every single television channel that has ever existed, doing in-house promos or whatever. I have basically done a commercial for every major product that you can imagine. Name a gas station, name a fast food restaurant, name a pizza place. Like somewhere along the way, I've done something for them. Now, I don't pursue voiceovers the way that I used to, but because I'm so established with a lot of producers, a lot of people, I work regularly. And to this day, I do Clash of Clans, but I do Clash of Clans the back end. So the in-house things that they make to pitch people and stuff like that, I'm the voice of all those stuff that are going around amongst their advertisers and the different people. So I still do a lot of voiceovers, and it all just came from that being a young Dee Snider and being a people pleaser who was really focused on my voice and communicating anyway. Every time I wrote any dialogue or whatever, I'm just reading it to myself in my head. How do I communicate this right? So it was easy for me to see a script and go, this is how you want to communicate that to make it sound right. And also because my background in comedy, that is actually the biggest thing. Truth be told, the only thing I've ever wanted to do with my life really was be a comedian.
I've done the stand-up thing a few times. Have you finally gotten the urge to do it?
I've actually finally gone up on the stage. I got a little bit off of it. I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to keep doing it. But I was scared. I really just was very nervous about it, particularly because my dad went out of his way to tell me how not funny I was at a certain point in time when I was trying to make him laugh. He was the one that I wanted to make laugh. And he was nervous that I was embarrassing myself amongst people, trying to be funny and failing at it. And he was just like, stop it. Stop trying to be funny. But he crushed me because he didn't know that secretly I was working in the back of my mind. I love studying comedy. I love comedy. I was like, I'm going to figure out how to do this. But when he came down on me, I kind of went, all right, maybe this isn't for me. And I slunk away from it for years. But just studying the performances of all of these comedians over the years, it's all music, the rhythm in which these things land at the right moment. And that's when people are like, ha, that's so funny. It hit just perfectly. And figuring out that sense of humor really kept me working at voiceovers when things didn't have to be funny. There's a certain amount of musicality and flow that comes from that comedy background and that music background. And I'm the voice of Food Paradise. I've done 201 episodes to date of Food Paradise. And Food Paradise is basically a comedy show where we go and we visit all these different food places, but it's a charming comedy in that it's all just silly, sweet joking about all of the food that's on the menu. And it wouldn't really be successful as a comedy show if not for me working in conjunction with my people. One of the writers for Food Paradise, a guy named Gary Lucy, he's brilliant, really, really wonderful, clever turn of phrase, really charming guy. Love Gary. And he's really capable of writing some clever dialogue and stuff. And we have a range of stinkers and really genuinely clever, genuinely good stuff, which makes for an actual enjoyable experience. Food Paradise gets written up a lot, Entertainment Weekly and stuff like that, for being a very popular show. And it's popular because I, the voice, interact with the cut. So it's like I'm a host, even though I'm not on camera. So I'm interacting with them, saying things that might be funny in response to them. But the big thing is what you learn from comedy and what I learned from doing this stuff all these years is how to really get people to laugh, especially when it's a bad joke. What I realized was the worse the joke, the more how bad it is must be inflected in your telling of it. If I tell you a joke and it's very clear that I am aware of exactly what level of terrible it is, you will laugh with me for my self-awareness. However, if I did the same thing on a good joke, I'd ruin the good joke. Good jokes kind of just need to be dropped like bombs. And slightly good jokes just need to be embellished enough where you know that the teller of the joke doesn't think it's the greatest thing in the world. They're just recognizing that this is maybe charming. And there's this scale of as long as you are honest with the audience that you're aware of how funny this is, and if you maintain that dance where the audience and you are always like, you're right, that wasn't a good one. That was a good one. They will dance with you forever.
How would you describe your voiceover career?
Voiceovers is like a culmination of all of the things that I do and all of the things that I've ever loved just coming all into one place, from reading and writing and speaking and mimicking and loving comedy and loving music and the musicality. It just became this thing that was super, super easy for me.
Jesse Blaze, I want to thank you so much for coming on the I Played 2 podcast today, talking about the keys to songwriting, your love of comedy, the projects you're working on, and to let all the listeners know that part 2 will be upcoming. Thanks again. And before I let you go, let everybody know where they can find you on social and all that stuff.
You can get links to everything, our comics, our music, the podcast, and more at blacklightdistrict.studio. Everything is linked up over there. That's my company. And we're building it as a hub to collect all the best in entertainment, best in music, best in comics, best in everything, so that you can go to the website and go, ooh, I've got a bunch of good recommendations for this or that or the other thing. And also, here's a bunch of good free comics and free music that you can listen to while you're checking out all that stuff.